Good morning. It's your friendly neighborhood security guard with the study, educational, achieve mentality. Okay. The Neolithic Era, 8,000 BCE through 4,000 BCE. During the Great Migration, humans looked for new, warmer regions with fertile soil to grow their own food and settle down. Early humans were nomads, moving from place to place. But the development of systematic agriculture in the Neolithic era marked a change to a more sedentary lifestyle for most humans. The Neolithic Revolution was a fundamental change in the way many humans lived. Humans could now keep animals and grow food on a regular basis with recurring and more reliable harvests. Agricultural changes. About 9,000 years ago, farmers started planting staple crops people would rely on most for food. Many crops were important in ancient religions and creation stories. Early farmers discovered that grinding grains makes flour, which can be used to make bread. People figured out where soil was fertile, where plants would grow better. Areas with long springs and summers were popular farming sites, since their climate helped crops thrive. Lakes and rivers were good places to settle too, because they had water and provided an extra source of nutrition through fish and other seafood. When planting crops, farmers chose seeds from the biggest, best looking, best tasting plants. Then they would repeat that the next time. Slowly but surely, each harvest would bring up a better, stronger, tastier round of crops. This process is called the domestication of plants. This was a huge leap forward. Some might even say revolutionary. The development of sedentary communities. Animal domestication began when humans tamed wild animals like sheep, goats, and pigs for meat, milk, and wool. Most likely, the dog was one of the first animals to be domesticated, helping humans hunt larger animals long before humans settled down. In some parts of the world, bigger animals were domesticated. In India, for example, wild elephants were tamed. Farming techniques like the irrigation system were also crucial for the settling early communities. Irrigation systems were a series of canals built to bring water to the land. Because sedentary communities grew their food, they often ended up with a surplus or more than was needed. A food surplus could feed many more people, so communities could expand and didn't have to follow herds around. The early villages. As more people lived around farms and food surpluses increased, people started to have free time to work on projects that didn't involve just finding or growing food. This led to more division of labor, people specializing in different roles within a society. People started to become artisans. Or is that artisans? My apologies. Workers skilled in a particular craft. They made baskets, tools, pottery, or fabric. Metal tools made from copper and then from bronze became more sophisticated. Iron was later used to make strong, durable tools. The wheel was also invented around this time. Like fire, the wheel changed everything. With so many goods, people started to buy and sell what they had made. Merchant ships began traveling across seas and rivers to trade goods. Trading with others meant that new technology and farming techniques could be exchanged. Among cultures, good could be bartered, which means that they were exchanged without money. Early government. Governments eventually formed to regulate trade and other aspects of human activity. In these new villages grew into towns and cities, which sometimes had walls for protection. Villages were probably led by the chiefs of the clans or tribes. Monarchs likely led large groups of cities or groups of tribes. Their job was to keep the kingdom in order through lawmaking. Many monarchs claimed to have power based on divine right, the right to rule granted by their deity or deities, which is a god, goddess, or divine being. Societies began dividing according social classes. Groups of people ranked by social status. Kings and queens were at the top, with priests and religious authorities beneath them. Next in line were government and military officials. Then came artisans, merchants, and small traders. Farmers, who started it all, were ironically lower still. And finally, some societies had slaves, which owned as though they were Some societies had slaves. People owned as though they were property at the bottom of the social order. Okay? Which is not okay. The first civilizations. As the first civilizations developed, the leisure time people gained after settling down and getting a food surplus freed them up for just thinking. People began working out big ideas in mathematics, astronomy, writing, and lawmaking. Writing was particularly important for keeping records of food harvested and goods to be traded. Rulers, priests, merchants, and artisans used writing to keep track of laws, prayers, or their family tree. Writing was used to record the poems, stories, and information that people had passed down through oral tradition or to create new stories. Painters and sculptors also told stories by illustrating tales about religion or nature by decorating temples and city buildings. The last 100,000 years in human evolution. 100,000 years ago, we hold burials and create tools to capture prey that runs faster than we did. 77,000 years ago, the first evidence appears that shows we are making marks in objects to count or record information. 40,000 to 50,000 years ago, humans have migrated far enough from Africa to settle in Europe and Australia. Looks like home to me. This little picture depicted the migration. 35,000 years ago, music to our ears, basic 3-holed flutes provided entertainment and culture. We also continue drawing. 30,000 to 20,000 years ago, we began using needles made from bone to sew clothes that fit us better. 9,000 years ago, we started domesticating plants and animals, which leads to sedentary communities. 8,000 years ago, the first written documents are created using symbols. During the next few thousand years, symbols will be replaced with words. 20 years ago, human population doubles in just 40 years from 3 billion to 6 billion people. They got a recipe for civilization that I want to read out loud. The ingredients are workers, writing, art, government. Put them all together and let cook for a few thousand years. Check on knowledge. We're going to rush through this. Why did people abandon their nomadic lifestyle during the Neolithic era? Answer: people stopped being nomadic because they developed systematic agriculture. During the Neolithic era, people began farming and could settle down in one place rather than chase animals for food. 2. What new farming techniques did the Neolithic people use? People began picking and choosing the seeds from the biggest, best plants and planting only those in order to grow even bigger crops. Farmers also used an irrigation system to control the flow of water to different areas of land by using canals. Give an example of bartering. An example of bartering is trading a woven basket for an iron pot. How did having leisure time advance civilization? Leisure time advanced civilization because people had time to explore ideas and be creative. Where were the first civilizations mostly found? The first civilizations were mostly found around Mesopotamia, Egypt, the Indus Valley, China, and Central America. Thank you for listening. Study buddies. Achieve educational goals.